everybody. I'm Suzie Wiley, and you're watching Valley Happenings, and I thank you for tuning in. And all of you across Alabama, thank you for watching, and your emails and your suggestions. You're all great. So thank you so much. I'm so excited today because we have someone from Montgomery. So all of you watching from Montgomery, you may know him because he is with a dean at Faulkner University, all right, and he is a lawyer, and he's a book author, okay? And so he is here with us because he's written the second book, and he's on his third book.
This is the third, and the fourth comes out this month.
He's just all over. And it's called Of Bees and Boys and Their Essays.
That's right.
And it's quite interesting, okay? And I'd like to introduce Allen Mendenhall to us today.
Well,
so thanks for coming
thank
up.
you so much,
We've been
Susie.
having a big time here.
We sure have.
Now, you never knew what to expect, did you?
No, I didn't. I got in late last night, and it was dark when I got in, so I couldn't even see what it was that I was expecting.
We surprise them when they show up and they go, oh, my goodness, okay. And then they come here and they think, oh, it's just Valley Happenings. Someone suggested I go on to talk about my book. And then they come here and I go, hey, this is Uptown. We're Uptown here. But Ellen, you've written this book. The other book that you've written is about Oliver Wendell Holmes.
That's right. Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr., the U.S. Supreme Court Justice, former U.S. Supreme Court Justice, who sat on the court mostly during the early 20th century. Actually, he joined the court in 1903, but was Chief Justice of the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court before he joined the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yeah, being elected to the U.S. Supreme Court as a lawyer, a judge, I mean, that is the highest honor you can achieve in your field.
That's right.
And you are a literature, English major, but then got your law degree, and, you know, you have a lot of education, and that's great. Would you like to be a Supreme Court judge?
Oh, I don't know if I'm confirmable. I don't know that I could be confirmed. But sure, if anybody wants to, if any president wants to nominate me, I would accept the nomination. So if there are any future presidents out there, I'd be happy for that.
But you know, you're interpreting the Constitution.
That's right.
And it's an interpretation, and all the things written, and even like the book you wrote about Oliver Wendell Holmes. There were decisions he had to make, and why did he make them? Why did he interpret the Constitution the way he did? That's the job of the Supreme Court. Not to go, oh, I don't like that, or no, they have to have reason. Mm-hmm. They just can't say yay or nay. They have to write papers on their reason. Am I right?
That's correct. They write opinions.
And people don't understand that.
Yeah, and Holmes wrote a lot of judicial dissents. He was sort of known as being the great dissenter, and a dissenting opinion is the rationale for why you disagree with an opinion, with the leading opinion or the majority opinion or the plurality opinion. And Holmes sort of inaugurates this dissenting tradition in the United States. Okay,
and you know, we didn't know we were going to talk about this.
No,
but
we
I
didn't.
think everybody out there, you know, we get all psyched about the Supreme Court when there's a nominee going up to be, you know, interviewed and voted on as a judge for the Supreme Court, which is lifetime, meaning once you get on there, nobody can kick you out.
Yeah, you serve for good behavior, which has been interpreted as a lifetime.
But anyhow, you know, so they go through this process, and then once they're there, you go in front of the Supreme Court, and each side has a half an hour. Am I right? Or do they extend it now?
Are you talking about oral argument?
Yes.
Yeah, they set a time for oral argument, and they give each side an allotted time to speak and say their piece. But most of the work, I think, is really done in the briefings. So the parties submit briefs, and I think the justices make up their mind usually based on those briefs, because that's what you can get a chance to study and you can really dig in. And then oral argument is an occasion for the justices to ask whatever questions they may have based on the briefs, whatever, you know, outstanding problems.
Do they read the briefs before they go to the case?
They do.
Okay, so they've read it, and the lawyers have equal time, and they get up and plead their case in front of the judges, and the judges have an opportunity to ask questions.
That's correct.
And lawyers who have been in front of the judges, when they're asked a lot of questions, they get a little nervous.
They can.
Oh,
They
because
can.
that means the briefs were not explained correctly.
Well, it could be that, or it could be they just don't have a great legal position and they don't want to have to admit it, and then they'll have to do some acrobatic work to.
Right. And then is there a time frame of once they're heard that the judges have so long, or the judges have whatever time they want?
Well, typically it would be before the term ends in
Okay.
June, so that the decision would be rendered by then. But.
Okay. Well, everybody, he knows a little bit about everything, and his essays, they're life. Okay, and I'm going to try to explain it in my terms.
Sure.
And they're about life and death. Not good and bad, but what's on the other side. And you explore that. We don't know what's on the other side, but you see it, and you explain when you've been places and somebody died and what it, as a child, what it felt like. Well, we've all been there. I mean, a lot of us.
Right.
A grandfather, a grandmother dies, and you go through it as a child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the essay as a genre is meant to be reflective. So it could be anything. I could be looking at your coffee right here, and it could remind me of something. And so I might start writing an essay, trying to figure out why is this cup of coffee reminding me
right,
of
that's
whatever. And so the essay is sort of meant to be a meandering form. It's reflective, it's pensive, and it allows you.
But it's your thoughts.
It is.
Like we were talking before, like your teacher may say to you, okay, we want you to write an essay on the traffic flow on the Beltline.
That's right.
Okay,
yeah.
Everybody in the room has to write that. But if they say, write an essay.
Right, just write an essay about anything.
Your thoughts.
That's right, like in the tradition of Hazlitt and Lamb and Montaigne, and now we've got essayists like, Jonathan Franzen and Wendell Berry. It's not the high school essay where they say, okay, it's going to be 5 paragraphs. Paragraph 1 is going to have a thesis statement with 3 points.
Yep.
The next 3 paragraphs are going to defend each one of those 3 points, and then you're going to have a conclusion. It's not so formulaic as that.
It can be meandering.
It can be meandering. In fact, that's what makes the essay distinct, is its digressions and sometimes ramblings.
Now, you wonder, of bees and boys, okay? And I thought, what in it, because your first essay is about bees.
That's right.
Okay, so there's the bees, and then a lot of it is about childhood. So that's
It is.
boys. And then there's a chapter on Harper Lee, which absolutely, because that's what you wanted to write about.
Right.
Because your
My grandfather.
your grandfather.
He grew up in Monroeville, and he grew up with Harper Lee and has all kinds of stories about playing basketball in his grass backyard on the grass basketball lawn with both Harper Lee and Truman Capote. He has stories about Truman Capote writing, and he and some of the other kids would make fun of Truman Capote because they'd say, what are you doing in there? And he would sit there as a child with a satchel, and he'd have stacks of paper and Diet Cokes. He would just drink Diet Coke after Diet Coke, and the other boys would say, what are you doing in there? And he'd say, I'm writing a book, and they all would just laugh at him, saying,
So what was the book that he wrote when he was a child?
Well, I don't know that we know.
Okay.
I don't know that we know what he wrote as a child. I think it was just scribblings.
But he had bizarre thoughts, too.
He was a profound thinker.
I mean, it's dark. It's the dark side of life. The investigation of dark side.
I think that's a fair statement. But he's got some soft sides, too. And the stories about his Christmas memories and Thanksgiving memories, they're always a little bittersweet.
Okay, but and then your infatuation with death and dying, okay, but not ugly, but an essay on it, and it makes you think when you read the book, what would I write? What would I say?
Yeah.
Me. What would if I sat down and wrote an essay? What would I say about it, or what would I pick?
Well, I think,
what story would I tell you?
I think I'm happy to hear that, because I think that's one of the purposes of the essay form, is to connect with the audience and to get the reader thinking about those very things. how might I think if I were in this situation? Or I've thought that thing before. I've had that line of thought before. And that's what's interesting about the essay as a form, is it sort of tries to seek out those universalities in human experience, some of those things that we all share as human beings.
As humans. Well, we're going to talk about some of the things in the book, okay? And there's a profound, I think it's profound, the statement that you made. And it resonated with me. And that's what books are about, everybody. And you know I'm a real champion on books. And anytime a book author calls, you know they are on this show. Because I think you get something out of every book you read. And if you don't, there's something wrong.
Maybe not with you, but maybe with the book.
With the book. There's got to be something you take. That's why you read. Books take you places you can't go to.
That's right.
Books take you back to places in a time you can't go back to.
That's right.
Books take you to the unknown, which you can't go to. But it makes you think. That's what books are about. You know I love to read. So, and I've learned to love to read in my older years than I did in my younger years. And I don't think that's uncommon.
No, I don't think it is either.
We had to read before, and and now I read for knowledge. And we're talking about the book, and it's essays, and it's provocative. They make you think about things, and they're very enjoyable. I mean, they're enjoyable essays. And there's one. Did I take my little note? I have all these notes. You know how I do this, everybody. And this is a chapter called, not a chapter, an essay called Power Made Perfect in Weakness. Power Made Perfect in Weakness. And after I read this, you know what I remember an old saying. It's better to have loved and lost to have never loved at all. That's right. What I got out of that chapter.
Oh, neat. That's neat. I think a lot of people will get a lot of different things out of that chapter, but the title's a paradox. It's actually a biblical allusion, but the idea that submission and humility would be an empowering would be empowering forces is something of a paradox.
Right, but and then that's what I got out of it. And again, how do you know good if you've never seen evil? How do you know
that's true.
You're happy if you've never been sad? How do you know if you've been loved if you've never been loved?
That's right. That's true. In fact,
it's all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, now let me find my next note. Okay. Oh, this is the profound statement that I told you before. That and you all have to think about it. But I think it's kind of neat. Here, you read it. You're the author. Why should I be reading his book?
Which passage?
Right there.
Okay.
Nature.
Nature is that liminal space between heaven and here. Maybe it's reflection, maybe it's liberation, but something about a walk through these trails makes me feel beautiful, or at least not ugly.
Oh.
Well, just to supply some context, the essay is actually about ugliness. So, just instead of ripping the quote out of context, I just would provide that context where the essay is actually about ugliness. But when I say that it's a liminal space, limen is actually either a transitional state or a threshold. So that there's this idea that when you're in nature, you are standing in the threshold. You are getting limited disclosure of what might be to come in the world beyond, the afterlife, we'll put it that way.
It's cool. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you.
It's wonderful. Okay, now, your grandfather, known as the judge?
That was my great-grandfather.
Great-grandfather. And you have his law books.
I do have his law books.
Great-great-grandfather's law books. I can't believe they've all been saved.
They weren't all saved. What happened? So he lived in Opelika. And when I think I was in high school, I could have been in college, I came down to Opelika and just loaded my truck full of, I had a truck then, and I just loaded it full of as many books as I could. And this was actually, this was my Uncle John's house. This is my grandmother's brother's house. So it would have been my great-grandfather's son. And I couldn't take them all. I wish I could have. But then when my uncle passed away, they couldn't find anyone to give the law books away to. And had I known, I would have gone and taken them all, because they had some treasures in there.
Oh,
Several
yeah.
law books from 1800s. I've got like an 1865 book, a law book with all the code of Alabama.
We have the archivist in Morgan County comes on, John Ellison, and he always says when you're cleaning out your house or somebody's passed away, please call him, because you don't know what treasure you have in papers or pictures or something. But the Harper Lee and about Kill a Mockingbird, Go Set a Watchman, that chapter was just completely out of place.
You think it was out of place?
No,
yeah.
I mean, it surprised me.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's what you wanted to write an essay on.
Well, that's right.
It's your book. You can write whatever you want. So anyhow, the fascination with Harper Lee all these years and To Kill a Mockingbird, is it that fascination throughout the country, or is it that fascination here in Alabama and because she was from Alabama?
I think it's throughout the country, and I think it goes beyond that. I mean, some of the earliest reports on Go Set a Watchman were released by British media, so I think the infatuation with Harper Lee,
It's always...
I mean, it's been around and it's widespread.
Okay.
And
I read to Go Set a Watchman, and it was not one of my favorite books. I mean, it just was poorly written.
I think
and everybody I talked to, and the experts in the fields, and literary people absolutely have the same feeling.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the prose is inferior to the prose in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Right.
But, it does give you a more complex portrait of Atticus Finch, and possibly a more historically realistic portrait of the man. But the prose itself and the narrative, the plot wasn't really much to speak of.
No, it was repetition. And I read it, I go, oh, she says that one more time, I'm going to just run this book out the door. Okay. But again, there are some really, really messages in Go Set a Watchman that are more tender in To Kill a Mockingbird.
I think that's right. I think one of the greatest scenes in literature is that scene when Scout and Jim run up to the courthouse, and Atticus Finch is sitting out there guarding the courthouse where Tom Robinson's inside, and then Scout starts talking to Mr. Cunningham, saying, I go to school with your little boy. And then the mob just slowly disperses because they are able to see the scene through the eyes of a child, and to see, the innocence and the corruption of their own character in that moment.
But your great-grandfather, picks out the characters and says, these are all the characters in To Kill a Mockingbird were all people in the town.
Yeah.
And Harper Lee just changed the names of the people. And what is really interesting, there are so many people that claim to be Harper Lee's best friend.
Everyone wants to claim Harper Lee.
Everybody wants to
That's
be
true.
Harper. Now, she's passed away, but I've never seen anything like this in my life. And people are actually, making money by speaking and pretending. I mean, in their minds, they were their best friends.
There was an author from Chicago who came down and wrote a book on Harper Lee, and it turned out to be very controversial because Harper Lee sort of disavowed her. And this book was all about how this journalist had come down and had lived by Harper Lee and cultivated this wonderful friendship with Alice and Nell. Actually, all Harper Lee's friends called her Nell. But Harper Lee said, this is not true, I don't agree with this. So that was a big blow to the author, I'm sure, but I think the book still did well in sales. So.
Yeah, everybody's just infatuated with it. And maybe because of the mystery and because maybe just that era,
I think
that
it has
period of
something to do.
time in life.
I think that's probably something to do. And everybody can identify with childhood because we were all children.
Right.
So To Kill a Mockingbird does sort of capture that. It takes.
And we all were scared at times.
That's right, of course.
As children.
Of course.
And, I mean, you didn't go over here because you were afraid of that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, you related to a lot of the things in To Kill a Mockingbird.
I would be concerned that a lot of children today wouldn't be able to relate because kids don't have the free range that they have and that Scout and Jim have.
You have to write it about a cell phone, or, texting and tweeting and Instagram and Facebook and
That's true.
Just think what you have books like what Ellen has written, and all of you, reading is just so important. So you get a little bit of everything in the book. And your thoughts. The children today, what are they reading? I mean, is there an Alabama Board of Education list of books that the children have to read? Are they talking to literary people in our state saying, what books do you suggest these children read? I mean, are they reading stories about Moby Dick and Captain Ahab, and what kind of character was he? Yeah, he was a captain of a ship, but let's tell, what was he? What made him that? What made him so persistent?
Yeah.
I don't know if we're teaching our children that.
Well,
I'd love to teach a class like that.
Well, you
just
should.
Profound. I don't know.
You should. That would be
I don't know.
fun.
I should go tell them I want to do that.
Well, you just did.
So who wants me to do it? Just holler. But I'd like to pick one of the great classics and share that with the children and really make them, dig into the character.
Yeah.
And maybe you can help too. You come up from Montgomery. Well, where can we get the book?
You can buy the book at the publisher's website, the publisher's Red Dirt Press, or you can buy it on Amazon. And if you just Google Of Bees and Boys, Allen Mendenhall, you'll be able to find it on online bookstores, all kinds of places. Barnes and Noble.
Bees and boys. Well, Ellen, it's been a great pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
Fun talking, and I hope you all enjoyed it. But what is really fun, I get to introduce you to a new Alabama book author, which is really cool. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much
All
for
right,
having
we're
me.
going to take a break, and we will be right back.